So, HBO has finally released a teaser trailer for House of the Dragon's second season, and things seem like they're shaping up to be pretty epic for next summer. So, for this video, I'm going to give my overall thoughts, opinions, some things you missed, and try to break down some of the stuff that we were shown and what could possibly be going on without going too much into spoiler territory, as a lot of people are just casual show-only watchers. But either way, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into the video. So, for starters, my overall thoughts on this trailer is that it looks fantastic. The scenery, the imagery, and especially the costume designs look absolutely amazing. Aegon and Rhaenyra were really the highlights of this trailer for me because they just look so regal. As Paddy Considine would say, they're serving Targaryen realness. This trailer, despite being only a minute long, really does a good job of getting you intrigued and excited for the conflict that is the Dance of the Dragons, and just how brutal this fight is actually going to be. I mean, in multiple frames, it just seems like the characters are at the end of their rope. They look sad, exhausted, and defeated at some points. And it's no surprise because though this is a political conflict, a war for the crown, this is still a very personal battle for all of them. I mean, you have brothers going against sisters, nephews going against uncles, cousins fighting cousins, and childhood friends becoming bitter enemies. This war is going to take a heavy toll on the people involved, and that goes beyond the main cast. This has to be one of the most pivotal moments in the Targaryen dynasty and the history of Westeros as a whole. Dragons are unlike anything the world has ever seen, being of magic and fire and destruction. They burn your enemies, but if you aren't careful, they may end up burning you as well. Aemon learned that the hard way at the end of Season 1, but we'll see how he actually develops when the new season starts. Either way, I'm excited to see more of these angry blonde people, their dragons, and the conversations that they spark within the fandom. But moving on from my thoughts and opinions, let's talk a little bit more about what's actually happening after the events of Season 1. Sides have clearly been drawn now, and as I mentioned before, both Aegon and Rhaenyra look like proper representatives of their respective sides. But just because they look the part doesn't mean they're going to act it. War changes people, and it can bring out the worst in them, or perhaps something better. That, though, remains to be seen. This is going to kick off right after the death of Lucerys, and as we see in the trailer, the war is now in full swing. The very first shot we get in the trailer is of Rhaenyra, and she looks rough, to say the least, and you can't blame her, honestly. In this shot, she's looking out at Storm's End and Shipbreaker Bay, the place where Lucerys died. She most likely is searching for her son's remains, but it's unlikely that she'll find anything. And it's probably better if she doesn't, to be honest. After losing a child, someone you gave birth to, talked to, and watched grow has to be one of the most traumatic things a parent could ever experience. I can only imagine how distraught and enraged she would be just finding scraps of her son and his dragon. This is going to be a very defining moment for Rhaenyra going forward. That grief, that rage of losing her son, and not just that. Before Luke died, she miscarried baby Visenya, so within the span of hours, days at most, she just lost 2 of her children. It's a terrible thing for a mother to endure. I'm really looking forward to seeing how well Emma Darcy portrays this low point in Rhaenyra's life, and how it affects her during the war. Speaking of war, the next few shots seem to be of people preparing for it. We have a brief scene of Aegon ascending to the Iron Throne, and I can't help but wonder when this is. Is this his first time sitting on the Iron Throne and he's now being counseled as a ruler? Or is this after they've entered an open war with Rhaenyra? I'm betting on the former. With Aemon killing Luke at the end of Season 1, I doubt, or at least I hope, they don't skip out on the drama and turmoil that comes from him confessing to his family about what he did. In the next couple of shots, we see Daemon getting ready for battle. Then we see a little image of a soldier with a traditional Targaryen banner in what looks like a camp in the Vale, since there are a lot of mountains here. Lady Jane is the ruler of the Vale, and a cousin to Rhaenyra. In Season 1, Rhaenyra thinks that because her mother Emma was an Arryn, then Lady Jane will be supportive of her cause. But there may be other reasons for her to support Rhaenyra as well. Like Rhaenyra, Lady Jane is a woman in a position of power, and in Westeros, men are more favored than women. If I'm not mistaken, Lady Jane inherited power in the Vale at the age of 3, and she has male Arryn cousins who believe that she doesn't deserve to rule because she's a woman. She may be able to relate to Rhaenyra's struggle through her own, and thus be willing to help her in her cause. But there is one big issue, and his name is Daemon Targaryen. Daemon in the show killed his first wife, Rhea Royce, something a lot of you Daemira shippers like to forget about. After killing his first wife and being confronted in Season 1, Daemon says he's going to talk to Lady Jane about his inheritance of Runestone. Since he and Rhea had no children, as her husband, her next of kin through marriage, he believed the rule of the Runestone would fall to him. But in the books, when Daemon sought out Lady Jane for Runestone, she threw him out of the Vale. We didn't get to see that confrontation in the show, it was just skipped over, but perhaps we'll see that in the form of a flashback when the Blacks seek her help. In the next couple of shots, we see the Hightower soldiers marching off to war. Then we see some minor houses that look like they're getting ready for battle as well. I really appreciate how they're making these minor, lesser known houses more noticeable in the conflict instead of just having everyone have the same sigil as their liege lords. It really makes the world feel a bit bigger. In the next couple of scenes, we see Otto, then Alicent consulting who I believe is Larys, because he's holding a cane. She talks about the war and how people are going to die. Last season, Alicent seems to be somewhat indebted to Larys as she gives up her feet for information. It's really like she made a deal with the devil when it comes to Larys Strong, so I can't help but wonder how reliant she'll be on him as the Dance of the Dragons progresses. Will he just be satisfied with Alicent's toes, or will he want something more? After that, we see Criston Cole, who actually looks older in comparison to Season 1. He has a new haircut, he looks rough and gritty, and he's carrying out an execution. This leads me to believe that this shot will most likely take place later in the series, as this person was probably a supporter of Rhaenyra during the dance. Also, if you pay attention to Criston's outfit, he seems to have on a chain. If you look closely, it kind of looks like a bunch of pointing hands linked together. They kind of resemble the hand Otto wears as Hand of the King. Could the position have changed hands? We also see a couple more scenes of Aegon and Rhaenyra looking absolutely regal, and I just have to say again that I love their costumes. After that, we see something rather interesting, and that is Sea Smoke, the dragon of Laenor, flying overhead of this new random character. Last season, Laenor faked his death and went across the narrow sea with his lover Carl, and they haven't been seen in years. Could Sea Smoke be trying to find him after all this time? It's said the dragons and their riders have a mystical bond, so perhaps he can feel that Laenor is out there. We get a shot of Daemon perhaps also performing an execution, and as he cuts, we cut to Aemon walking to the throne. In Season 1, Episode 9, Aemon kind of confides in Criston Cole that he deserved to be the king more than Aegon. Aemon, as a kid, was someone constantly looked over in favor of others, made to feel like he wasn't good enough. Now he believes that he's better than them all. And, to be fair, he exemplifies the most Targaryen traits in his family, kind of like Daemon does, so it's no wonder that they're being paralleled like this. It also doesn't help that Aemon is literally Daemon with the D at the end of his name. Either way, this scene looks a bit off to me with Aemon. Maybe it's because it's storming and the room is dark, but while it looks like Aemon is coveting the throne in secret, I can't help but wonder if this is actually a dream. In OG Game of Thrones, Daenerys had dreams of the Iron Throne, and Targaryens have been known to have prophetic visions. Daenerys the Dreamer foresaw the doom of Valyria and helped House Targaryen survive. King Viserys was a dreamer as well and foresaw the birth of his son Aegon, though he mistook him for his late son Balon, the heir for a day. He believed that the dragons that roared in his dreams were roaring in unity, but in reality they were roaring for war. Princess Helena is also a dragon dreamer, and she says some pretty random things that later come true. She predicted Aemon losing his eye, Otto causing the birth of the Green Children, and possibly Rhaenys' attack on the Dragon Pit. Could these prophetic visions have passed on to Aemon? Maybe he's viewing the future, his future, but who knows if it's the right interpretation. Also, when Aemon walks up, if you pay attention to the throne, you'll see the Targaryen banner has changed. The normal House Targaryen banner is a red dragon, but in Season 1 when Aegon took the throne, it became a green dragon. So why is it gold now? Well, there are a couple reasons for this. First, it's because this is a civil war within one family. Normally, houses that aren't related have different banners, so it's easier to identify them. But since this conflict is within the same family, they can't have the same banner. Things would get confusing really fast if both sides had the same unchanged sigil. But besides that, there's also another reason why this banner is gold instead of green or red, and that's because of Aegon. The gold is a homage to his dragon Sunfire, a golden dragon that we saw briefly on Driftmark in Episode 7 from a distance. Sunfire was hailed as the most beautiful dragon of his time, and he and Aegon share a very deep bond and connection. It's probably safe to say that Aegon actually loves Sunfire more than most of his family, to be honest. So in Season 2, we'll probably get to see just how connected and close he is to his dragon. We see a brief moment of Alicent looking absolutely stressed over something, and then we see Rhaenyra confronting this mysterious rider with Sea Smoke in the back. So it begs the question, who is riding Sea Smoke? Is it Laenor? Did he find out about the war overseas and find his way back to Westeros? Is that why Sea Smoke left Driftmark? Because Laenor had finally come back? But Laenor's return could present an issue since Rhaenyra is married to Daemon, and it was his death that made the foundation for their marriage. But also, what if this isn't Laenor? Could it be a new rider? But if that's the case, it wouldn't make much sense. Dragons, once bound to a rider, are bound to them for life, or at least until one of them dies. So it shouldn't be possible for a new rider to claim Sea Smoke. unless this means that Laenor is dead, and who knows what that realization could do to Rhaenyra. Maybe she'd feel guilty because she was the one that let him go. Or perhaps Laenor is still alive while this new writer has taken Seasmoke. If so, how could that be possible? Perhaps the showrunners will take an opportunity to expand on the lore. Maybe a writer having prolonged distance away from their dragon causes the bond between the two of them to fade away over time. And since Laenor has been gone for years, perhaps that's what happened with Seasmoke. I guess we'll have to wait and see. We also have a shot of Helena later where it looks like she's at a funeral. She has a veil on her face and there are these little embers going up. Targaryens traditionally burn their dead, so maybe this is the burning of King Viserys. Or perhaps it's someone else. We see more glimpses of the war, and then Rhaenyra being counseled by Rhaenys. I think this moment might actually be Luke's funeral, given how they're both wearing black, and Rhaenyra looks pretty upset. We see who I assume is Baela for a brief moment, giving a loud yell, and then King's Landing is going to hell. There are more flashes of conflict, and then if you pause at the right time, you'll see Helena being held hostage. Could she be about to die? Or is she going to be taken hostage for some leverage against the Greens? Or maybe this is going to be revenge for Lucerys. Needless to say, we have to keep an eye out for this one scene. As the trailer goes on, we see more war scenes and briefly see one of the Cargyle brothers fighting someone who I assume is his twin brother. In the books, the twins Eric and Arik actually end up having a duel during the dance after they try and fail to convince each other to change sides. There's even a song that's written about it later on. It looks like this is going to be House of the Dragons version of the Clegane Bowl, or shall I say the Cargyle Bowl. This one seems like it's going to be more impactful and heart-wrenching because unlike Sandor and Gregor, one of them isn't a zombie and they actually love one another. We see Rhaenyra taking flight, no doubt to go fight in the war, and perhaps chase down Seasmoke's rider, before closing out the trailer with Aemon and Vhagar going to battle. This trailer was amazing, and it definitely gives you something to look forward to next summer, and you better believe I will be covering it here on the channel. I'm so excited to discuss and dissect this show and its characters again with some new content. But you guys let me know what you thought of the trailer and some things you noticed that I may have missed. Try not to spoil anything for the casuals though. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.